What's the secret behind atmospheric landscape like this? It all starts with lighting the sky, atmospheric clouds, and a few tricks that I'll show you in this video. But the clouds is probably the most important things to create an atmospheric landscape like this one. So I actually showed how to create realistic clouds in Blender in one of my previous video, this one. But back then a lot of people wrote me on my Patreon saying they couldn't even open this scene because it was just too heavy because it used a ton of volumes. So today I'll show you a completely different approach, easier, faster, and honestly I think the result looks even more painterly. This is actually what I use most of the time. Yeah, we'll combine 3D in Blender with matte painting, using some stock images, artistic brushes, and a few tricks to create clouds, fog, and environment. But first we start in Blender, because the foundation of this art is still 3D scene, and I start from this ocean. This is probably the easiest part of this artwork, especially if you use Blender. By the way, all these project files are available on my Patreon, along with other tutorials, masterclasses, and assets available only on my Patreon. Subscribe, link in the description. So why is this easiest way to create ocean in Blender? Because here we already have a ready-to-use ocean modifier. All I need to do is just add a plane to this scene, go to modifier, and find the ocean modifier. Just add it and boom, I already have an ocean and we can see it in the camera. The ocean modifier has a lot of settings to get a realistic look of ocean. You can tweak them for your purpose, but if you want the same ocean, there are settings I used in this artwork for the ocean modifier. I'm going to create a still artwork, but if you want to create animated ocean, you can simply animate the time parameter in this ocean modifier. Just type in some expression like frame divided 30 or something like that. And if you play an animation, you'll see the ocean is moving. But also we can tweak this time parameter even for still render, still artwork to find this perfect ocean surface. Also for this 3D scene I used cliffs, trees and ship model. I found these cliff models in Blender Kit. There is a ton of models of cliffs, mountains, rocks, whatever you need for your artwork. The ship model, I'll leave the link to this model in the description. So it's pretty simple and straightforward, right? But where it gets really interesting things, a couple of tricks that I used in Blender for this water shader. Well, it's basically not even only about shader, but first let's add some light, because that's also key to getting an atmospheric result, and we must see ocean and shaders in the scene to work with them. As usual, I'm using the sky texture, but in this case I disable the sun here. For the sun I'm going to use a separate light, sunlight, which I can add from the add menu, light, sun. This gives me more contrast in the light and shadows compared to just using the sky texture alone, or only the skylight. And I feel like it gives me better control over the lighting in Blender. But I'm still using these sky texture settings as well, because it essentially affects how the shadows look, since it's the global illumination for the scene. And by the way, someone asked me in previous video about light in HDRI. Is it possible to combine sky texture and sunlight? Yeah, it's possible. You can absolutely do this. As you can see, they work great together. Of course, if you really want to dive deep into the realism, the sun position in the sky texture should match the sunlight. Even though I disable the sun in this sky texture, there is still a sun with these settings. But for me, that's not as important as getting a beautiful sun ray in the scene. So the sky texture here is just acting like global illumination. But right now everything looks too flat. because the sun is shining from the camera's direction. So I added a cube to this scene and shaped it into an object that drops shadows exactly where I need them. Essentially, I call it block lighting. I even consider this as some artistic lighting technique. On one hand, it adds depth to the scene, it creates a feeling that there is something behind us, some world behind there, and that something is dropping shadows into the foreground and onto certain objects. And the best part is fully controllable. I can basically paint with shadows and light to create the exact effect I want. So I just extrude and move some faces and or edges and see how the shadows drop on the objects. This approach allows us to create an atmosphere just by painting with light. And another important thing to create an atmospheric art is the contrast between light and dark. I would say playing with contrast. The key idea here is placing white on black and black on white. It's a simple concept, but you can clearly see it on the final art. Look, the top of the cliff is lit, while the background behind it is dark. And over here, it's the opposite. The shadow creates a dark silhouette, but the background behind it is bright. This interplay of contrast is also what creates atmosphere in the artwork. And by using blocking light, we can precisely emphasize contrast exactly where we need it. I can adjust this object and find the right shadows. So I want some shadows on this tree and cliff, and I'm moving the face to achieve that. Also on this side, I already have the shadow on the cliff, and the ship is in the light. Depending on what you're trying to achieve, you can, for example, put the ship in the shadow without even moving the ship itself. But then again, I'll end up with bright ship against the dark background. That same principle of contrast, the interplay of black and white, light and shadows. Alright, we have light, so let's go back to ocean, since all other models already have their textures and materials, and I'm totally happy with how they look. But before that, let's go back to the ocean modifier one more time. Here I'll enable form, and we need to name this form attribute. Now let's go to shader editor in Blender, and I already have principal BSDF here, so let's start with the color. Set some ocean color like this one. Right away I'll set roughness to 0, but for more realism I'll bump it to some just slightly above 0. So because it's not a glass, it's a water, something like this. And by the way, I set 30 for render and 10 for viewport resolution in ocean modifier. That's why we don't see many details on the water right now, but it's well optimized for the viewport. So I can increase the viewport resolution so you can see more details. Next, let's add another principal BSDF, and this one is going to be the form. To mix these two materials, we need a mix shader, connect the ocean shader and the form here. Good. Next, we also need a mask to use these two materials on one object. To do this, I'll add the attribute node, and as you remember, we named the form attribute earlier. Now we are going to use this. I'll just copy the name and paste it into this attribute field here. Now this node will use the same named attribute, and we can simply connect it to the factor in this mix shader node. Also, in ocean modifier, we have coverage parameter for this form. It controls how much foam appears on the water. So I don't need a lot of foam. I'll set it around 0.2. So now we can see the foam on the water, especially here. Looks good. But since we already know that I have dark clouds in the artwork, You can see it again here. That means I definitely shouldn't have these kind of reflections on the water, because I will not have a clean sky in the background. So I simply added a large plane behind this scene. This plane will block this sky texture from reflection on the water, while still letting the sky texture works as global light. Basically, I just need to remove this reflection from the water. So I also added a simple black material to this plane. And I also add another cube to this foreground, so nothing behind the camera gets reflected either. Plus, it adds depth to this frame by emphasizing shadows in the foreground, which helps draw focus on the center of the image. So let's get back to the water. And we need to understand that water is not just a flat surface, it's a volume of liquid. It's transparent, but the ocean also has density. In other words, isn't just a surface that reflects the sky. We can also see what underneath it. So obviously, you'd just go to the ocean shader and lower the alpha to make the water transparent. Ensure that add transparency, but it doesn't add density. To actually give the water some depth, here what I did. I just duplicate this ocean surface. I lower the resolution settings, I don't need much details here. And let's move this one beneath the main ocean surface. Then I add solidify modifier to turn the plane into the object and move it a bit down yet. For this object, I'll remove the water material, and all I need is principal volume. I'll set the color to roughly the same as the main water color, but we can always return and tweak this color if it needed. But that's all I need from this underwater object. It's basically faking the ocean depths without having the model of the ocean floor and other details. And now I can use alpha in the main water material, water shader. As I lower the transparency, I'm revealing the volume material that we added beneath this ocean surface. This material will behave like a regular volume shader, scattering the light rays, and that's what creates the ocean depths we need. You can see it now, it's not just a flat surface anymore, it's a volume of transparent water. Let's compare how it looks without alpha and how it looks when we use alpha and underwater volume shader. But here's another trick I used. Right now, alpha affects the entire ocean surface, and that kills the whole painterly feel. In reality, we would see the bottom and transparency closer to the camera, and the further away, the reflection angle increases, so we should see more reflection than water depth. But the alpha channel removes this physical effect completely. So here's the trick. I let camera data node. This node gives us information from the camera, and especially I need depth path, depth information. And we can use this information for the alpha channel. But we need to select the range we want to use from this depth. To do this, I need map range node, change vector to float, and let's find this range for this depth information. Yes, something like this. After that, we can use this as an alpha channel. And here's the trick. By using this depth information from the camera, we create an alpha channel that works the same way. Water transparency will be stronger closer to the camera, but the further away from the camera, the less transparent it becomes. So we'll see the bottom, the water density, the scattered sunlight in the water right up close where it actually matters. And further out, the water will simply reflect the sky. On top of that, I can add color ramp to control this alpha channel. If I move this black point here, it's essentially the same as adjusting the alpha channel in Principal BSDF, but with the depth information from the camera, of course. You can clearly see this in the final art here. The water closer to us is transparent, and the sunlight scattered through this volume shadow creates this realistic water. And most importantly, it looks really painterly. So this is my render, and from here I'll be using matte painting in Krita. We could also use 3D matte painting in Blender as I showed in this video, but there is a huge advantage of using painting tools. And also Krita is free like a Blender, but you could also use Photoshop or Clip Studio Paint, whatever you use, it even doesn't matter. The trick is the same as with 3D matte painting. We can use stock images and create environment using them. So I found a lot of different images for this artwork on Pixabay. If you want the same images, I leave the link to this collection in the description. So how does it work? How we can create this environment if we already have a 3D render? I start with this image, and I'm only interested in this cliff part. That's all I need from this image. So I add a new mask to this layer, a transparent mask. Press Ctrl L to invert this mask. It turns black and everything disappears. Perfect. Now I can take my brush and paint with white to reveal the area I need from this image. As you can see, I'm uncovering this cliff with the mask, but this is very rough mask. I would maybe prefer to use some soft brush to clean it up. And if I don't need some part of this image, I just switch to black and remove it with the same mask. So the second image is this mountain. And again, I only need a part of this image for my artwork. Basically, I'll combine these two images into one cliff. Again, I add a mask, invert it, and I can use the same soft brush and paint this area to blend this image with the previous image. But I can also use artistic and painting brushes for this, or even better using environment brushes, which you can find a lot of in internet, even for free. For example, I have this brush collection, and there are some really cool mountain brushes in this pack. They are perfect for painting masks in matte painting. They give you a natural transition between layers and basically let you blend layers through the mask. In some areas you'll see one image, in other the second one, but together it all creates a seamless, natural transition with no visible seams. Or you can simply use a paintbrush for this, depending on what result you want, but definitely do not use simple standard brushes. But aside from creating a natural mask transition, we also need to match these two images by color and tone. And here you need to decide which image is the hero image, the main one, and match everything else to it. I'll use this first cliff image as a hero reference. To bring other images into the same color, I'll select this image and add a filter mask. So I need to find hue saturation. Yeah, it's just like hue saturation value in Blender, you know. And I need to match this color tone to the main image using hue, saturation, and lightness. And as you can see, it literally merged them into one image. Now it's single cliff in the art. That's how it's simple, you see. But we can also adjust images, not just using adjustment layers, filters. We can use overpaint technique as well. We can literally paint over the image to perfectly fit it into our story, the composition, and the color tone of the overall painting. To do this, I need a layer, new layer, and turn it into clip and mask. In Krita, I just group these two layers into one for painting, and on the overpaint layer, you'll see here letter A, it means alpha. Click on it. Now this layer will use the alpha channel from base layer, and we can paint over it. So for example, I want to paint sunlight on this cliff more visually clean than is right now. Literally, I emphasize the light. And see how it looks under the hood in this final artwork. This is the cliff layer structure. It's a bit complex because I have more overpaint layers, the base image, the mask for this image, color correction for this layer, and then two overpaint layers, one for light and one for shadows. So using this light layer, I literally paint additional light that matches my scene, and with the shadow layer, I emphasize the shadows. And here's the second image. All this together creates one single cliff in the art. And by the way, since I use different artistic brushes, you can see that the layers overlapped, but it's not a sharp mask. It's a natural transition that takes each image into account. So I did the same things for these mountains. It's actually the same image, but by painting different masks, I turned one image into what looks like completely different mountains. There is no visible tiling or anything like that. I use the same technique for the sky, but here is using some environment brushes is crucial. I use different cloud brushes for this. Actually, I need the sky in this artwork not just look like an image over this artwork. It had to feel like a real sky with clouds that interact with the whole environment, just if it was created in Blender, for example. But look, if I take a simple brush and paint a mask for the sky, it's going to look like just an image slapped on top of the render. But if I switch to a cloud brush, see how it already works. Just from the brush shape and settings, it already looks like a cloud. It already looks like a real cloud. I'll set the color correction to this image to match the overall color tone. But it's also not just one single sky image, it's combination of several different images, so you can see. This is the base sky layer. On top of that, I added another image, also with mask. Here is different sky images, as we can see, and from this, I created small clouds in the distance. Look, I just use the same cloud brush and literally add the clouds where exactly I need them. And one more image for extra drama. And this way I can flexibly do whatever I want. For example, here I just added a piece of some sky image and watch the trick. I use the same mask for this sky layer, grabbed a soft brush with a very low opacity and just gently raise a bit of this layer to reveal the sky layer underneath. You can combine white and black brush color to soften the result. Basically, this way I got the effect of lighting somewhere deep inside these clouds. It's so flexible that even with just couple of images, different brushes, you can achieve absolutely incredible result. Things that would be hard to achieve even doing this in 3D, even with 3D matte painting. And look at the sky. Because of these brushes, it creates the effect of clouds interacting with the mountains. It's not just background image, these are real clouds. In some places, denser, in other places, the mountains show through, or other elements of the environment pick out. And of course, this is technically much easier than using volume clouds in Blender. It requires way fewer resources, just some painting tools, painting programs like Krita, Photoshop, whatever I use. Also, it has own challenge too. It's hard to find some perfect photos, you know. Sometimes it's maybe hard to find the right images with which fit to your artwork. But with my painting technique, we can easily create entire environment just by using different photos of different parts of different photos. I can also use this same brush to paint additional effects like fog. For this I use the cloud brush and the same brush as the erase in Krita to shape the fog exactly how I want it. So the advantage of matte painting are obvious, and combination of 3D and matte painting is always overkill feature for digital artists. So hit the like button to this video, subscribe to my channel if you haven't subscribed yet. I also have Patreon where you can find masterclasses, tutorials, assets, materials from each videos. Check this out, link in the description, and consider to subscribe my Patreon. So create awesome arts, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.